Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Grow For It. Our goal is to highlight leaders in the personal development coaching industry, to give you a glimpse into what's working and what challenges that coaches are facing along the way. That way you can learn and grow in both your business and personal life. Today, we have a very special guest, Dominika Staniewicz, who is the founder of Your Brain Coach D. She's a corporate trainer, elite brain coach, and neuro-encoding specialist. She recently completed a TEDx talk and has a book that's a #1 Kindle release. You're going to want to check out her profile for much more. But Dominika, thank you very much for joining me today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, can you start us out by just talking to us about your background and how you got into the coaching world?
Absolutely. So the short version, because we only have limited time and I already have lived a few years in this world, is that when I lived in Europe, I used to do career coaching and I worked with C-suite. I did a lot of analytics. I worked for the group advising the Polish president. I was part of the shadow cabinet. I was a lecturer. So coaching was, when it was just showing up, it was part of my to be and kind of toolbox, but it wasn't never a separate type of business. And then when I came to the US about 10 years ago, I had to start from experience, not from scratch. And while I was building myself up and I was building my network, one day I ran into Dr. Daniel Amen and Dr. Joseph McClendon III, who created something called the Brain Revolution. And it was neuroscience-based coaching at that time. It was very unique. And it's also, I would say, medical-based coaching because there's a lot of medical knowledge required to do this, yet we're not doctors. And those two approaches that also influenced by NLP, processing power of the brain, certain techniques that were only available to the 0.0001% of population, best of the best, used to be very expensive, now kind of came to light and we were able to acquire them and then work with leaders and everyday people to rewire their brain, not necessarily through medicine and through years of therapy, but within a year where your client, and that is the challenge, doesn't need you after a year. And that's how I arrived here where I am.
That's great. Well, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you blend neuroscience with coaching? Because there's a lot of different types of coaching out there, and neuroscience is not one I hear every day. So I'd love to hear more about that.
That's a great question. So neuroscience does not blend. It's the basis of my coaching. So understanding how brain works, how default mode network, what is the silence network, what does cerebellum do, what does prefrontal cortex do, why left temporal lobe influences anger. All of those things are part of the base of knowledge. So when I work with a client, they first get blood work done. Why? Because you need to produce neurotransmitter for your brain to have building blocks to be rewired. So maybe, just maybe, if you're in therapy for the last 10 years, you're either just became friends and this is not therapy anymore, or you have not been really looked at holistically. Because if you have, for example, inflammation in your body, your brain will not be able to change because it has to first fight the inflammation. So the medical general knowledge is important because then I know where to send somebody to have that worked on with a doctor, right? Obviously, I cannot prescribe anything. And then we use different methods and different modalities. So from EMDR, which is part of my training, which is eye rapid desensitization movement technique, where we separate feelings from memories. And then you just have a memory without the emotional charge that happens when you remember something. We use memory rehearsals, and that's a mental rehearsal that's very specific. To be even more precise, 80% of training for the Thunderbirds and the top F-16 firefight pilots is mental rehearsal, and we teach you how to do that. We use senses to bypass parts of your brain so we can implant certain things that you choose to have readily access, like courage, if you want to be courageous, and so on and so forth. So neuroscience, it is after having, going through all those tests, assessments, brain type, looking at your blood work, looking at various things, then we create a plan for you, whatever you and wherever you would like to go. Now, there's phenomenal success and with this type of approach because it's not only psychology. The belief in neuroscience-based coaching is that your brain creates your behaviors, not the other way around. And we work on neuroplasticity in a very, very broad range, from stimulating to even reducing the number of stimulants. We do use partially NLP. We do use partially cognitive behavioral therapy. We use, memory recall. There's so many different methods that go into this. But the fact that you understand the process of how your brain creates something, it gives you the power to stop the process from kind of coming to fruition. And that's what's beautiful about neuroscience-based coaching.
That's fantastic. What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions that current leaders out there, maybe C-suite executives, have related to their brain, their work ethic, or things like that? I think that a common mindset that I see is that people just think that their results are a matter of them maybe not working hard enough. They need to put in more hours or just work harder. But what are some of the big misconceptions that you see out there?
So first of all, it's hard to say about and talk about misconceptions because people have no clue about their brain. They think that's everything is psychology, and it's not. So that's the first thing. But when it comes to the mindset part, so the result of what your brain does, I do agree that most people underestimate what sleep, nutrition, and being outside and using, for example, circadian rhythm and analyzing your concentration span and reducing stress can do for your leadership. To be exact, I had one of my leaders, she came to me working, like a typical leader, 12 to 14 hours a day. After a year, she was done within 6-7 hours. She could go home. She could open another project. She could travel. She could do yoga, whatever she wanted. And I think the biggest misconception is that the amount of work equals quality. Actually, every person, every brain has their concentration span. And afterwards, if you do not use that best brain power time per se, you will be doing the same task, which would take you 20 minutes. You'll be doing 2-3 hours. It's a waste of your time. So understanding how you work, how your brain works, how you can optimize that literally gives you control back of your life. And without the stress, without the overwhelm, without the controlling, the unhealthy way of controlling, it's understanding how you are and adapting as much as we can the world to it. Does it work 100%? Nothing works 100%. But those tools and most of your daily life will be life-saving, religious practice of certain habits, certain behaviors, and recognizing what you're feeling, how you're feeling, what triggers you, where your brain is at, and what do you need allows you to be very conscious and mindful without the woo stuff, right? Because a lot of people go, oh, you got to be intentional. And people go, okay, well, this is what I want to do, right? They don't understand how that works in the brain, which system is activated, and how you can deactivate it when you need to.
That's great. That's a great answer. What would you say, going off of that, has been your proudest moment so far in running your company? Do you have a success story that you'd like to share with us?
I have so many. I love all my clients. I think the biggest success is that my clients don't need me within a year. And that is across the board. The longest I was working with somebody, that person was 62, was a year and a half. And after that year and a half, that was the one time. Everybody else is basically good to go after a year. Will they come back in the future? Maybe when life presents something that, we haven't anticipated. But overall, that is a big thing. I think another big success that I have was a client who was on, if I remember correctly, 17 antidepressants, top leader. And after working for a year together, me and their doctor and everything that I did, plus, overseeing with blood work with the doctor, we ended up on 3. And wow. That's huge. That's huge because most of the side effects went away. And the dosages were so small that they weren't influencing everything else. Now, would it be possible for everybody else? Probably not, but it is possible for a lot of people. I'm an example because I practice what I preach, and I am epileptic, right? So my nervous system is quite sensitive. And after about 4 years of working on myself without a coach, but with all the knowledge that I have, I ended up from 2,000 units of medication down to 250 units. And after 35 years of antidepressants, which are always prescribed for epileptic meds, like kind of a pair, I have been off of them for 6 years taking saffron, and I'm perfectly fine, which means I don't have the side effects that I used to have, stomach aches and anxiety and all the other things. It is possible, but everybody has a different goal. Sometimes success is not what I consider success, but how client walks away and they go, I did it, right? I achieved what I wanted. And maybe in 2-3 years, that won't be enough. They'll come back, I want more. But success is something that we define at the beginning. What's success for you? And so far, every client has walked away feeling successful and feeling like their life is now better and it was worth it.
That's great to hear. And that's a great testament to your work that a lot of your clients don't have to come back or don't feel the need to, and that it usually doesn't last longer than a year. That's fantastic. It seems pretty transformative. And just even hearing about that one particular client who dropped down the medication amount, that's a big life change.
Absolutely. And you know what? It's not about being perfect. It's about achieving the quality of life that you believe you deserve. And that can change with time. I have another lady client who was a CEO of a medical company. And she came to me, really, she didn't know why she's coming, but she just wanted help. And when we looked at her emails, she was extremely stressed, anxiety, lack of sleep, unable to sleep, plus perimenopause and menopause added to that. It wasn't fun. Let's just say that. And one of the things that happened, we looked at her emails, and she would get 700, 800 emails a day. After about half a year, we've managed to create new culture that she created with the new perception and with the new attitude. And from 700 emails, I'm not going to tell you the whole process, but it was a lot of fun and she had a lot of aha moments. She ended up with about 25 emails a day, which gave her free space to work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah, that's great. Could you talk us through a little bit about the different offerings that you currently have? I know that you have some individual coaching opportunities and some more group coaching opportunities, and you also do live speaking, keynote speaking and things like that. Can you talk me through that a little bit?
Absolutely. So everything I do is edutainment, basically. I educate through a lot of fun and audience participation. So that's for the speaking part. And everything does revolve around the brain. And clients usually ask for specific subjects to be touched on, like creativity or decision-making skills or feedback, all of those, or just brain health and kind of being more stoic and able to control your life, not losing, let's say, your mind or allowing the stress to take over. So that's one part. The second part, we have individual coaching for leaders and people with ADHD, depression, anxiety, and overwhelm. That is another group. And then we have corporate trainings, where I also license other people in what I know so they can go and do the trainings for corporate. And those are specific subjects that we touch on. Now, if there is enough of neuroscience, I can design a training, but sometimes there isn't enough of knowledge. And I'm like, we got to wait a few years to use neuroscience in that respect because we don't know enough yet that I can simplify it. Part of my gift is that I can take complex science and simplify it into usable, everyday, simple things that will have the effect we want without the overwhelm and reading thousands of studies, which I read, so we can then translate that in something usable. I believe in science that's actually useful and helps people. Science just for the sake of science, that's fantastic, but that's not me. I'll take the science that we can actually make our life better. So those three legs, which is individual, group coaching, then we have this keynote speaking and trainings and breakout sessions, as well as lunch and learns and trainings for corporate. And I've done them practically on 6 continents by now.
Wow, that's impressive. How many people, I know you mentioned that you have some that are licensed to do some of the trainings through you and teach some of your courses. How many people do you have licensed currently? And outside of that, what does your team look like?
So I have 3 people in admin working with me, and I have 2 trainers that are able to do 2 of the trainings. And we're testing that model out, seeing what's working, what's not working. So this can be built out into a full sellable, trainable, licensed type of environment, because these trainings actually bring results. And what's beautiful about them, when your leadership or your team gets better with this type of knowledge, they literally transfer that to their house. And those skills are transferred down. These are skills that not only enhance quality of leadership and how people function, but also are translatable to their households, which means quality of their family life gets better. The kids that learn from the parents are less stressed and they grow up to be better adults. Unfortunately, we're not at the stage yet where brain health is taught in school, and it should be. It absolutely should be, with the amounts of kids committing suicide, anxiety, depression, problems with communication, addiction to phones. That is something very, very alarming, because right now, I believe the last study was 60% of young men never walked up to a woman, ever. Now, That's lack of skills. There's nothing wrong with them. It's lack of skills. It's the phones. It's the environment. So that impacts brain health, and that will impact how they will work. That will impact how the company will grow. That will impact what type of leaders they will have and how much money they will have to spend later on educating leaders to actually be leaders, not just managers.
That's a pretty scary statistic that you shared there.
And there are many more scary statistics. I just chose this one that I remember off the top of my head.
Well, that's definitely one that society needs to pay a little bit of attention to. But like you said, it's a very big problem that we're facing right now. A lot of need for this stuff, and it's so much easier to live your life on the internet and through a phone and be constantly distracted these days. So the need for mental health is growing very significantly, and you can see it through many of the statistics you had just shared. But if we're to pivot a little bit, if you had to pick one thing in your company now that's driving most of your growth, what would you say that is?
That's a very good question. And I believe it's speaking and referrals. That would be probably the one that works best. I haven't found yet a phenomenal salesperson. So if anybody loves to sell, please come in. I'm happy for you to join the team and share the pie. But selling is something that everybody is growing in, and it's a very relational thing. And guess what? People are not relational lately. They believe that AI will fix everything, and it will not. So that is the biggest challenge in my company right now. A dedicated salesperson. We've tried few people. They did not work out, although they're absolutely lovely people, and they've been transferred within the company to other departments because they have other gifts. So that is still on the search to grow at the state we would like to grow.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Would you say, or I guess I'll just ask, what has been the biggest challenge for you with attracting or keeping customers when it comes to sales?
I think it's the fact that what I do is not typical. It's not life coaching. It's not business coaching really. And it's not medical. It's somewhere in between. So in my case, what I do requires a lot of education. Most of my clients, when they see me speak, they show up, or they show up and they say something like this. And I've heard that multiple times. I've watched all your videos. I read the books you've recommended. I did things you said I'm supposed to do. I improved, but I hit a plateau. Now I need you. And that takes time, usually about 3 years. And that is very, very important. That acquisition of clients for me is a long process.
Why do you think it's so long compared to other coaching?
because it's not straightforward. They don't really understand the need to working with the brain. Everybody keeps hearing mindset psychology. And notice that there are a lot of people who go through therapy for 10, 15 years. The goal of a therapist is to have clients because that's how they get paid. For me, the goal is for you to go because on purpose, it is structured in a way where we really, really zoom in on things you need to do so you can walk out and not need me again. I truly, and that's my own personal conviction, I don't believe in always another level coaching for years, therapy for years, unless you've been through some horrific trauma. I don't know, been stuck in a bunker, raped every day and beaten, and your hair was pulled out for years. Yes, I can see the need for clinical and, years of therapy, but most people should be able, with a good therapist, psychologist, good tactics and methods and skills of those people who are supporting them, be able to be on their own within a year. In most cases, again, there are some examples. So in my case, when we talk about brain health, brain is something that we know we have, but we really never studied. We never learned. And the idea of that brain creates your personality, not the other way around, that your brain decides how you're behaving, is pretty much foreign. And remember, neuroscience, the practical side of it, has been around maybe for 15 years. So this is the beginning. But trust me, I predict that within 10, 15, 20 years, without neuroscience, you will not be able to run this type of a business.
Wow, that's great. That's very, very insightful and good to hear, because the coaching industry kind of can have a little bit of a conflict of interest there, as well as the medical industry, of the fact that the longer it takes to heal people, the longer people are your clients. So that can definitely present a conflict of interest. But it's good to hear that your success is really based on people not needing you anymore, and you really see it that way. So that's fantastic. What would you say? I know that you mentioned 6 different continents that you've coached, and your business spans many borders. What would you say are some of the challenges that you face with expanding your coaching business to be multicultural and still teach the same lessons to people of different geographies, cultures, whatever that may be?
No, if I would say that there is a specific challenge, I think the biggest challenge is that we're overwhelmed with information and experts. And it's very difficult for people to decipher who is an expert, who really knows what they're doing. And when it comes to brains, they're the same all over the world. And everybody struggles with the same things like anxiety, depression, PTSD, overwhelm, ADHD. That's no different wherever you go. It might have different cultural context. And that's where the neuroplasticity comes in. But self-worth and believing in other people, being generous, being a person who actually has gratitude, trained in a way, not the way you think, or praise. It's interesting enough, I teach people how to pray to rewire their brain, because prayer can be very powerful. And I don't pray, but I do meditate, right? And those behaviors, that what happens in the brain is the same. Then we have the repetitiveness. So I don't see a problem with cultures, because again, we're talking to a human and they can put their experience in a context, and that context really doesn't matter, because it's all about their perception and how their brain functions, which parts of the brain are overacting, underacting, which one is too stimulated or understimulated. Maybe there's not enough oxygenation. The challenge might be that not all techniques that we have in Europe or in China or in Korea or in the US are accessible in the countries that are developing countries, or they might be too expensive. So then I have to create other things that would work similar way. But the access, there's so much right now flying at everybody, so much information. So many people are just screaming at you from all the screens and saying, hire me, I'm the best, I've made $2 million, that it becomes diluted. So finding your clients takes also longer, or it's horrendous amount of money. So don't ever believe that ads, Google ads, or, Facebook ads are cheap if you really want to target a specific group. They're extremely expensive. And to find the conversion rate truly, because first you have to have the ad and testing A/B, then you have to go and test your website or landing page, then you have to test prices, then hours. That it takes a lot of money and time to find the right one. So that is the challenge when you're a small to medium company. When you become big, that's a very different story. You get access and to collaborations and working with people who you're able to pay amount of money that they can deliver. When you're my size and every other coach out there besides the big names, that is a challenge, but it is doable. It's just the persistent is key. So in brain terms, your gray matter, your grit lives in gray matter. That is the key. Doing things despite the fact you don't feel like it. And that will bring and yield results. And trust me, I very often wake up and I'm like, maybe I should stop doing this, just get a regular job somewhere and stop. But I can't, because I know the results I bring. And sometimes it sucks. It takes a while before everything comes to fruition and blossoms. So keep planting seeds and trust that the right people will find you and you will find the right people.
Yep, that's great. That's got to be a challenge that a lot of coaches face, because with any kind of coaching, there's a lot of other experts out there, like you mentioned. And then there's also a little bit of a hurdle of understanding what it is that they need, what it is exactly that you teach. And so there's a little bit of an education before you can bring someone on, which makes even the ad section, the ad realm, a little bit more difficult too. That's interesting. Where ideally would you say that you would like your business to be within the next 12 to 18 months?
So 12 to 18 months, I would like my Polish leg and European leg to develop. There are inquiries coming from Europe, which is exciting because I haven't done anything for Europe besides few clients. I have no clue how those people found me. So something is working, and that's exciting. And I would like that to develop. I would also like to develop more the training department and the speaking, which is going well, but I would like this to continue to grow, because I truly believe that coaching one-to-one or one-to-many, there's no difference. You ask the same questions and people process the same things. And very often, good keynote or good breakout session is so valuable that it brings in the clients you need later on. And that kind of trickles down and you're able to help more and more people. We have this at Your Brain Coach, the idea that 10% of every income that we make goes always to charity. So we help people for free. And that's our part of giving back, because not everybody can afford these type of services, but trust me, everybody needs it.
I love that. That's very cool that you do that with your company. What do you think it would take to expand the European operations and also to expand the training department that you're currently working on?
Salesperson.
Yeah.
There's no magic. Salesperson. I'm fluent in languages. Salesperson.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows what they're doing and loves sales. I'm good at sales because I have to be good at it. That's how I survive or function or build my company. But this is not my gift.
That's fair.
And I believe that when you want to grow and you want to grow your company, you need to find your gift. I don't hire coaches to coach me how to do marketing. I hire a marketing person. And if I could suggest anything to newbies, especially people who are 2-3 years in, don't hire another coach to coach you how to do marketing, how to write, whatever else that they're telling you that they can teach you, convert. Just hire a person, because by the time you learn, you'll be at the beginning level compared to the time that you could have already had something functioning with a person who does that on a daily basis. And for them, it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe 5 days. For you, it's 5 months, a year to get to the basic level where they're already been a long time ago. And it's much more affordable and much more effective to hire people from Fiverr, Upwork, or exchange services with people who have the knowledge you don't have. Stay as much as you can in gift zone as long as you can. There are plenty also of free options. Not everything you need to outsource at the beginning, but if it's something important, then make sure you do have those people that you work with that are better than you. And I have people around me who are better than me.
Yeah, I think that's a really great tip and somewhat of a counterintuitive tip. A lot of the coaches I talk to are currently hiring other coaches to teach them those things. And I think that's part of just entering into this entrepreneurial world, is that a lot of coaches out there are really good at what they do as far as coaching and add a lot of value there, but they may not be an expert in accounting or marketing or sales or those things. So a lot of times you're faced with the decision there of either hiring it out or becoming an expert in it yourself. So that's a very good tip for those out there who are just beginning. For you, if you could free up 10 to 20 hours a week currently, what would you focus on instead?
I think I would focus on connecting and creating more value from the science that I still have on the side to read, that I know is valuable, and I would then create even better programs for my clients. And that would be something I would definitely do, because I do go to conferences, I take notes, I learn from the best. But then I can deepen that knowledge with the studies that I read to create those trainings and create even better trainings, or go to other trainers and get inspired by them. I've seen some amazing ideas how to demonstrate certain brain patterns that I didn't think of, right? So bringing that, collecting that knowledge and creating something exceptional for my clients would be definitely where I would put my time in.
That's fantastic. How do you see technology or automation playing a role in your business over the next few years?
Huge. I mean, if when it comes to, freebies that we have, or basic landing pages where then you get or automated emails, or people being able to schedule things, or automatically just pressing one button and sending out a contract and information, that saves so much time. And that's where the human touch, I write those emails, but then they go automatically out. And for example, if there are tips after you get a freebie, right? Something, a checklist or some type of a course or free meditation, when you get those emails will add value even more, right? You don't forget. I don't know how about you, but I've bought so many things that are waiting for the right time. And there is this very fine line between being annoying when you get those emails every half an hour, or every few days saying, hey, this is another tip. Hey, this is another tip, right? And done in a way where you don't feel invaded. I am not a big proponent of, buy it now, it goes away forever. I personally absolutely do not buy from anybody who does that. I just don't. I do buy, but I do buy when I want to. When they say sleep on it, there's science behind it. So what happens is when you ask a question to your brain before you go to sleep, your brain cleans out the mess and structures everything in your brain. It goes into your deeper memory and pulls information. So very often when you wake up in the morning, go, oh my God, I know. That is because your brain did the work. So the sleep on it part is actually very healthy. It allows you to process without emotion, because we do buy emotionally. That's how sales are built, right? We excuse the purchase with logic, but we buy emotionally. If you allow yourself to sleep on it, you will spend so much less money, because emotion will be gone, as most emotions last 90 seconds if they're not fed, and night is longer than 90 seconds. And then you wake up in the morning, the only thing is left is logic. It's like, yeah, I would like that, but I don't need that, right? Or this is not the best option for me. Or you come up with this creative idea how you can enhance whatever you were thinking of. So that's part of neuroscience, understanding how you can optimize, right? Saving money on purchases, especially for impulse buyers. That's something we work on, right? Stopping yourself from pressing enter, going, I'm saving the page. I'm going to go to sleep, and tomorrow I'm going to come back to that page. And most people say that 80% of the time they don't buy. Now, it's not a good news for a person who's selling, right? But there's 8 billion people on the planet, and most people don't have the tools. how much better their life would be, not mine or the person who's selling, if they would have those tools. How much more money would they have in their pocket for holidays or other things that they can spend the money on instead of impulse buying and having billions of Amazon packages in front of your house?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so that's a good lesson there. So if you're considering buying Dominika's courses, buy it right away and don't sleep on it. But if you're buying anything else, sleep on it.
I want you to sleep on it. I literally tell my clients, I'll call you back in 3 days.
That's great.
Because I want you to go through in your head, ask me questions. And if you really want it, you will buy. If you really feel you need this, not just because you like me, but you see the value in what I'm offering, there's no doubt you will buy.
Yeah, I was joking, but that's great that you say that. A lot of integrity there.
I truly believe in integrity. I think it takes longer to get where you want to be with integrity. It does. But it feels so much better.
That's great. Fantastic. If you had, I guess you already kind of shared a little bit. One thing I saw that you're focused on is encoding happiness into your DNA. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it takes to do that and what that looks like?
Practice.
Yeah.
And nothing is forever. So when I would ask you, tell me, can you think of a moment where you messed up and you felt like crap and everything just went to hell and you were just worthless?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Immediately, things come to mind. Now, if I would ask you, hey, can you think of right now moments where you're exceptional and you were so proud of you and everything was going wonderfully?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. How many do you have on one side? How many on the other? Go.
Probably a lot more on the positive side that comes to mind immediately.
Mm-hmm. Then you're like the 10% of the population. Most people are PhD experts in self-beating. Most people are phenomenal at remembering every time they messed up, but they're not so good at remembering moments that were great. And that's part of the science of happiness. Also, one of the very interesting things, I actually am reading that right now. I was at her webinar. Very, very worth reading. It's by Miss Cassie Holmes. She's a PhD and she studies happiness. So most people say, oh, if I go on vacation and I'm going to spend there, next 5 months, I'm just going to chill and I'm going to drink and I'm going to watch the water. Well, it turns out those people are not happier. It also turns out that if you work more, you're not happier. And so she was like, okay, so where is the happiness? It turns out that if you have 2-3 hours for yourself daily and you feel productive, the level of happiness grows exponentially. So if we know this, now we can start designing life to be able to get as close to that as possible. Right? It's not always possible, but it's close. So science of happiness, first of all, discovering what makes you happy. You're quite young looking at you. So people who are 45 and up, they usually don't know what makes them happy because they've dedicated their life either to work or to their spouses or to their kids, and they forgot who they are. That's where the, empty nester syndrome comes in, where people go absolutely ballistic and they go like, okay, I have all this time and what do I like? I don't know. And that's where we rediscover that, where we redesign that. And it's not that easy because what you liked when you were 20 might not be what you like when you're 50, right? There are different needs and different development process and you're in different stage of life. So that's part of happiness. Also, there are Stanford studies that teach you about concentration on the process, not on the outcome. And that's where this book and the other one came from, which is The Magic of Dreaming Big, Acting Small, and Achieving Success. It's based on Stanford studies where they proved, and we show in the book how to do it, that you need to be concentrated on overcoming obstacles as your daily focus, not on the outcome. Outcome you really have no control over and how it's going to be perceived. And changing that, the way we focus on things, is another big challenge. And, the book did great in English. Now it's coming out in Spanish for the Spanish market, which is fantastic. Those tools are based in science, and we kind of compact all of that for when it becomes your default, because everything you do is like a neural pathway that is in your brain and is responsible for certain reaction. And when you do it once, it's like a thin hair. Then it becomes a ribbon when you do it more times. Then it becomes a sidewalk when you do it even more times. Then a one-way street, two-way street, freeway, and then a highway. When it's a highway, it's a default behavior that you're not thinking of. So our job is to get you from the thin as hair to the highway in the respect of happiness. The caveat here is that most people think that you have to be happy all the time, and that's extremely unhealthy. It's extremely unhealthy to be excited and go, yes, my grandma died, she's now happy. No, you're not happy. It's important to be able now to use different states and feel all of those states. It is not possible to be joyful all the time. That's the fake happiness. You do need to get angry. You do need to get sad. You need to get frustrated. You need to get annoyed. Now, the question is, how is that expressed? How long do you feel it? How long do you stay in it? And the science of happiness is being able to pull on your knowledge and training and your default behaviors when you need them.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's good to see that your focus is not on suppressing negative emotions. It's very much that it's good and healthy to feel those things, but it's controlling, I guess, really how much you let those things take over and how long.
I think the how long and how much, because the truth is that when we get angry and, I used to think that we're good people. And I now know that we're not. Because I used to think, until I read all the studies, that we help people because we're good. Well, it turns out that we help people because we're egotistical. What happens is our mirror neurons start acting up and they see the pain. So what happens is your brain feels the pain of that person. We help to relieve that pain so we don't feel it. It's absolutely self-centered. Now, knowing this, I'm still going to help people, but I won't be giving myself the privilege of thinking, I'm such a good person. No, I'm doing this so I don't feel it, right? So I feel better. And most people don't realize, and that is also important to understand, that a lot of things we do for self-preservation. And when it comes to negative emotions, if you stay in them too long, your brain will start produce chemicals like, let me see. For example, for men would be vasopressin, which happens after sex. And then that's why men leave, because the interest is gone and there's no excitement. And it's not their fault. This is how they're built. If oxytocin doesn't come in afterwards, then basically there's no connection. You gentlemen speak about it very often, just in different terms, not as scientific. There is a huge challenge with the brain that when it's stuck in a loop, and it's usually one of the circuits that overdriving an amygdala and the sympathetic nervous system goes haywire, you literally start to hurt yourself, and it's very hard to break the pattern. So when you understand how that works, I have, for example, a rule of 24 hours. If I'm miserable, angry, unhappy, I give myself 24 hours and then I stay in bed, cry, scream, do whatever the heck I need to, go for a run, and I'm okay with this because I know that when 24 hours comes, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do everything I know how to get back into a better state. And I force myself to do it. That's very important. That's why when we talk about building your gray matter, which is your grit, that comes in when you need to pull yourself out. Yeah,
absolutely. I do have a question on one of the things you said there with regard to doing good out of ego, maybe self-preservation. Do you think that that's always the case, or do you think there's
biologically, yes.
Really? So you don't think there's ever higher purpose or calling that...
You can have higher purpose or calling, but you're helping people because you see the pain. Your brain uses mirror neurons, creates pain inside of your brain. It can be physical or mental, and you help to relieve that because your brain reads the pain of another person. That's why we are not meant to be in front of computers. This doesn't work on a computer. This works in person. Right. That is why your environment can elevate you or bring you down. Just because of that, when you walk into a room, your brain reads the atmosphere and sometimes it's like, what the heck happened here? Why is everybody so tense? And you just walked in, yet you feel it. This is your mirror neurons at work and your brain at work. So what do? You don't go around making everybody feel good. You leave so you can relieve the pain. Now, I would love to say that we're altruistic and we all do it for higher purposes, but biologically, we do it to stop our pain. Now, there is that part, which is biological, and that's what happens. But there's also other reasons which might influence what you're doing and how you're going to act. And I'm not saying we're bad people, but what I'm saying is that we're not as magical as we thought we were, unfortunately.
That's fair. That's a good way to put it. Well, I guess I'll leave with asking you this. What is the best place for our viewers to find you and more information about what you do?
Absolutely. Well, depending what you're looking for, but definitely go to Instagram, Your Brain Coach D. Instagram, we also have it in Spanish. All the materials are in Spanish and in Polish on different channels. You can also go to yourbraincoachd.com, which is my website, or my first and last name. You can go to LinkedIn, find me by my first and last name. I'm very easy to find if you want to find me. I'm not making it difficult, and that's an advice to all your coaches. Make sure you have the same title everywhere so you're easy to find. And a tip that I learned many years later, when you post to any social media, make sure the title of your picture has your first and last name, because then it's indexed in Google and your pictures come out in hundreds and you become very visible.
Oh, that's great. That's a good tip. Thanks for sharing.
You're very welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Dominika, for joining us today. I appreciate your time, and you had a lot of great insights to share that I think a lot of people will find tremendous value in. So thank you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And I hope everybody thrives, because there are so many people that need our help that there is no gatekeeping. There's plenty of clients for everybody.
Yep, that's great. Well, I really appreciate that. That's an awesome attitude. And it's been great to have a conversation with you. And to our viewers, thank you very much. If you found this valuable, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time here on another episode of Grow For It. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.